I had given them all the proof, and still they seemed to choose to ignore it.
There's something stalking the Canadian workplace. It can be offensive, hurtful, and hazardous to your health. Still, 1 in 6 of us has felt it, the pain of being bullied at work. But as it's often psychological, this particular brand of abuse can be hard to recognize. It can also be hard to fight. Tonight, the CBC's Joanna Remiliotis tracks the growing fallout from Canada's silent epidemic.
You would think it all got left behind in the schoolyard. The sneers, the snickers, the snide remarks. Think again. The bullies are all grown up now. They may be wearing a tie, carrying a briefcase, may even be your boss, and making life at work a living hell.
I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was throwing up blood. Broken. I wasn't myself anymore.
Meredith Boucher is the gaunt face of a silent epidemic. She lost 25 pounds in 6 months. She says her bully tormented her at work, day in and day out.
How would you describe those 6 months?
In a nutshell, hell.
It was hell she never saw coming. For 10 years, Meredith was a star employee at Walmart, rising quickly up the ranks. She was working at this store in Windsor in 2009 as an assistant manager, on track for yet another promotion, when she suddenly found herself in the fight of her life.
I knew that I hadn't done anything wrong. I had given them all the proof, and still they seemed to choose to ignore it. And I just wanted to prove that I hadn't done anything wrong. That was all that it was about.
Meredith says it all started when this man, Jason Pinnick, the store manager, asked her to falsify the temperature logs in the food section. Another worker had forgotten to fill them all in. The store was going to get a bad audit. Meredith refused and says she immediately became a target, and says the abuse was cruel and bizarre.
He would start off and he'd start gong, 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 gong. And then he'd be like, "This is a gong show." And then he'd start, and he'd just go off and he'd go crazy.
And this was happening every day?
Every day, every day.
What was he trying to do?
Well, to me, I didn't know if he was nuts or what, but he was just trying to humiliate me, and he was doing it in front of everyone.
Did you document everything? Your attempts to have management deal with it?
Yes, I did.
Meredith complained to senior management. She says they took a lot of notes, made a lot of sympathetic noises.
They were going to do a 2-week investigation into this. So if anything else happened in this period of time, I was to contact them.
And?
And I did.
And then what happened?
Absolutely nothing.
Seems hard to believe, doesn't it? Especially since by law, Walmart must have a policy in place against workplace bullying. Several provinces across the country have similar legislation. But as Meredith and many other people we spoke to found out the hard way, those laws leave it up to the employers to do the right thing. And if that doesn't happen, good luck.
Remember, Meredith had witnesses and a great work record, but that didn't seem to matter. 5 months after she made her first complaint, Walmart concluded her allegations were unsubstantiated. Not only was Pinnick off the hook, she was now in trouble for making false allegations. It was the last straw.
I guess he got the better of me because I couldn't be there anymore. I just couldn't be there.
Meredith quit, but hardly gave up. She called a lawyer.
In my view, that legislation doesn't have sufficient teeth to enable an employee to bite back at the worker who's causing that level of discomfort or distress. And employers oftentimes are placed in a situation in which they have to choose between 2 employees. Whose side are they going to take?
Myron Shulgin agreed to take on Meredith's case, despite the odds. Workplaces may be required to deal with bullying, but there's no actual law against the act of bullying itself.
You can't just go to court and say, I've been bullied unfairly or I've been harassed unfairly. Make it stop. You have to go a step further. And that step is a very big step that you have to take. You have to prove that the bullying or the harassment to which you've been subjected constitutes the intentional infliction of emotional suffering.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for coming for the group session.
Proving the physical and mental toll of workplace bullying is a huge challenge, and why so many people suffer in silence. At a support group for victims north of Toronto, a sense of helplessness echoes in the room.
I was a wreck. Mentally, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat.
These people must be exposed. This company must be exposed.
It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened.
Everyone here says they've tried and tried to hold an employer responsible for bullying. Anna Nair runs the group. She says people can end up desperate.
Little by, you're poisoned to death, mentally and physically, and ultimately your soul. That's when people take their own life.
Years of bullying ruined Teresa Coelho financially.
I'm just reminded every day that I didn't matter, basically. That's what it did to me, that I was worthless.
Stephen Stepik says his fight demoralized him.
Because the most danger for any person is to, when you lose self-esteem, when you're under depression, there's gonna go only one way: suicide.
Hi, Anna. I'm Meredith.
Well, nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
We told Meredith about the group. She drove 2 hours to get there, eager to meet people like herself.
Hi, Stephen. Meredith.
She was shocked by the stories that sounded just like her own.
So I was alienated. I was never invited to any company function.
Exclusion, yeah.
Very, very excluded.
When you told me about this group, I thought it was amazing. Their stories ripped my heart out. It needs to stop, bottom line.
How to stop a bully when the legislation is lax and the legal hurdles huge. An international conference on workplace bullying, the first one of its kind in Canada, is taking place in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
When somebody has been bullied and they go through all the procedures and use the policies and all the forms, the issue now is that person, whether or not they're going to believe this person.
Valerie Cade is an expert on workplace bullying. She says it comes down to leadership.
When you're treating people well and you create an environment where people want to, you will see less incidences of bullying. And if somebody is bullying, it will stand out like a sore thumb as opposed to being the way we do things around here.
Walmart didn't hold Meredith's bully accountable, but the justice system did. Her case went to trial. A jury accepted her version of events, and an appeals judge found Jason Pinnock's daily abuse was flagrant and outrageous, and that Meredith suffered a visible and provable illness as a result. The judge also found Walmart took no steps to bring an end to Pinnock's misconduct. In the highest award of its kind in Canada, the jury ordered Walmart and Pinnock pay $1.4 million. That amount was ruled excessive and reduced in appeal last month to about $400,000.
So when you find out that you won your case, what went through your mind?
But the sense of vindication was the best reward.
I was elated with that because that's all I wanted to hear was that part, and I was just like...
In statements, Walmart says it regards its employees highly and disagreed with the findings of the trial court in this matter. So does Jason Pinnock. But Walmart says it will use this case as an opportunity to reinforce respect in the workplace without exception. As for Pinnock, he still works at Walmart. He now manages this store in Ancaster, Ontario. Walmart says there have been no further complaints of this kind raised with respect to Mr. Pinnock.
Looking back, would you do it all again?
Yes.
No regrets?
No.
No regrets, despite the fact winning came at a cost. Her bully is still working, but 5 years later, dozens of resumes later, Meredith is still looking for another job.
I've had, a couple places where I've gone in personally and given a resume, and they've seen my name, and they've asked, "Oh, are you that Meredith Boucher?" And I say yes, and then oh, and then I'm like, oh, okay. well, all right then, I get it. So
you think people look at you as what? Potential troublemaker, or?
Possibly, I don't know.
Meredith says, despite it all, she's optimistic. Writing in her journal every day helps. Maybe because, in many ways, she's still writing her own story of a woman who stood up to a bully and is still paying the price. Joanna Brumiliotis, CBC News, Chatham, Ontario.